what was that like? What was that part of the conversation about how we can make sure that we're still staying North Mobile Christian School while also having this new look for families and students on a day-to-day basis?
So I really see this as an opportunity for us to just take it back, like we are taking back our lives here and giving families more of that time.
Welcome back to Campus Conversations, powered by the Alabama Independent School Association. I'm your host, Michael Shipma, and today I'm very excited to talk about something that's been gaining more and more momentum, I believe, in recent years, and that is the concept of a 4-day work week. We've seen some businesses and corporations implement this, and now it's actually making its way into the education space as well. And one school that is poised to be a pioneer of sorts in this space here in Alabama specifically is AISA member North Mobile Christian School, which is offering a series of innovative scheduling options for their students. And joining us now to talk about all of this is Heather Cubitt, head of school at North Mobile Christian. Heather, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to share a little bit about how this is all going to work out for you guys.
Well, thank you so much. Good morning. It's great to be here.
So starting out with just before we get into all this, because I know that the headline here and the thing that gets people's attention is 4-day week. Whoa, that's awesome. We have Friday off, or
right.
Whatever that day of the week might be. Give us a little bit of an overview of this, because it's more than just a 4-day week that you guys are implementing here. So talk about what this will look like, what those options are, and when this is going to all go into effect.
All right. So we are looking at implementing 3 different options for the 2025-2026 school year. So beginning in August, we are offering option number 1 is our 4-day school week. All of our students who are 4-day or 5-day, I'll talk about the 5-day in just a minute, but all of those students are going to complete their core classes or core subjects Monday through Thursday. So that's option 1, is that they are finished by Thursday. They have Fridays off. They always have a 3-day weekend. Sounds awesome, right? That would be my choice. And then we're also offering the 5th day, because we know that a lot of our families obviously work schedules don't allow for them to be at home on Fridays. So we are offering a 5th day, but our 5th day will be only enrichment opportunities for our students. So we're looking at things like STEM and robotics, performing arts, visual arts, the fine arts, foreign language, and then just kind of some really creative units on things like maybe hydroponic gardening. That's one thing we've been looking into. Even things like typing skills, life skills, cooking classes, just fun things for kids on Fridays. And then our 3rd option is the hybrid option. So that would require students to be on campus learning 2 days per week, and then learning from home the other 3 days per week. And then our hybrid students would also have the option of adding on that Friday enrichment day if they choose to make it a 3-day on campus instead of a 2-day on campus. They could actually join us on that Friday. And then we're also allowing our hybrid students to participate in all of our athletics, all of our extracurricular activities that we offer here as well.
Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting model that you guys are putting into place here. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're wanting to introduce this at the starting with what, for right now, at least as of the release of this episode, will be next school year. So that's 2025 to 2026.
Right.
And so, there's a lot that is still, to be seen about, how this will look on a day-to-day basis and what families will choose which option. And before we get into all the amazing things that you brought up, because I want to touch on a lot of those, different options that people have, talk a little bit about what inspired this decision to go to provide these different options. Because I know, that there's a lot of conversation around the concept of, hybrid work, work from home, 4-day weeks, and some people might either be really for it, be really against it. Where did this idea begin for you guys?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, Michael, and I'll give you the short answer, the simple answer on this. Running a school is very much a business,
mm-hmm.
and it requires numbers.
Mhm.
It
Absolutely.
requires enrollment numbers. It requires tuition. And so really it came down to trying to creatively build our enrollment numbers. We are surrounded by two very good school districts where we're located. We're located in Saraland, so we're on the north side of Mobile. So Saraland ISD and Satsuma ISD are our neighbors. And those are highly sought after school districts that parents, even that don't live in the area, try to get their kids into Saraland or Satsuma. So, when you're surrounded by really good schools where parents can send their children for free, there's a lot of people that are obviously going to want to pay thousands of dollars a year for private school education. So, we've had some declining enrollment numbers over the past 3 years, I would say. This is my first year here at North Mobile, but just kind of looking at the numbers, the history, the past few years, I would say that we have probably lost close to a fourth to a half even of our enrollment numbers over the last 3 years. And part of that just being the economy, part of it being the school districts and just, the things that are going on in those school districts that parents want to be a part of. And there's just been a lot of different circumstances. It's not anybody's fault. It's just it is what it is. And so, looking at those numbers, our current tuition rate that we are at right now is the lowest tuition in all of Mobile and Baldwin County. And I think that tuition rate that they had set prior to me coming, they really, they wanted to keep tuition low because they knew that in order to be competitive, in order to even have a chance of having a school, tuition had to be very affordable because, you've got school districts around here that are free that kids can go to. So why would you want to pay thousands? So they've really tried to keep it very affordable. But as a result of that, when you have lost a fourth to a half of your student population over 3 years, you're very limited on what you can do with curriculum and instruction, even with teacher pay. So there have just been a lot of hindrances there. And so my job coming in with a fresh set of eyes was okay, the math isn't mathing anymore. So what are we going to do about how we're going to fix this? And, we could keep going the way we were going. We,
Sure.
may have brought in a 5 to 10% increase in enrollment after this year just because things are going well, word of mouth, but that's not really going to be enough to get us to where we want to be academically and with other things. And so, it really came down to let's get creative. And what are some of the trends out there in education right now? How is the world of education changing? And how can we jump on that and, like you said, kind of be the pioneers in this area and blaze new trails and, build some of our enrollment back up to where it was prior to 3 years ago, and hopefully even beyond that. So what can we do to bring in those students so that we're able to accomplish the goals that we have for our school? So I began to just look out nationwide, outside of Alabama, not just in private schools, but also many public school districts out there and just see, what's going on out there? What are people doing? And that's where I came across the 4-day school week. And, we knew that we kind of wanted to tap into that hybrid model as well, because there is a very large group of a homeschool community in this part of Mobile County. So we knew that was an area that we really wanted to be a part of too, and offer some support for those homeschooling families. So, we just kind of put our heads together. We did a lot of research. I spoke with school leaders all over the country who were operating in the 4-day school week and hybrid and offering different possibilities for families, and just kind of gathered the data. And, we prayed about it for several months, talked to some of our families, just kind of put some feelers out there. And that's kind of where the idea came from. So.
Mm-hmm.
all that was supposed to be a short answer that turned really long. So
no, that's actually super helpful because it really brings up because you're absolutely right. I mean, things are changing. Trends are trends. It's one of those things that you really have to try and keep tabs on. And I mean, how important is it? I mean, for you especially. I mean, you've kind of learned firsthand how important it is to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in education and to kind of look and see how what's working somewhere else and how can we maybe implement that here. I mean, that's really, very valuable, I think, for heads of school, everywhere really, and being able to adapt. And I guess when you're looking at implementing all of this, I know, especially with our independent schools, you want to make sure that, yes, while you keep up with trends and you try new things and, you implement different strategies, what was the thought process like to make sure that you're also staying true to some of your core values as well? As far as, your academic standards, your, whatever it may be. What was that like? What was that part of the conversation about how we can make sure that we're still staying North Mobile Christian School while also having this new look for families and students on a day-to-day basis?
Very much so. I would say that really was kind of my driving force behind, just getting innovative and thinking outside the box was, I'm really a curriculum and instruction kind of specialist. I spent over 20 years in the classroom as a teacher. And then I also homeschooled for 5 years. And so I feel like curriculum and instruction is really my area of expertise and specialty. And our teachers do an amazing job with what we have, but I felt like that was an area where we had massive room for improvements. And there was so much that I wanted to do with our students in that area of curriculum and instruction. But, your hands are tied when there's only so much money coming in and you only have so many students to work with, and you want to pay your teachers what they're worth, or, get them somewhere close to public school salaries and really attract those, those qualified teachers. And so that really was a driving force behind getting creative and trying to find a solution, to bring in more students. More enrollment means that we're bringing in more tuition, which means that I have more to work with, and hopefully able to offer the absolute highest quality of curriculum instruction possible to our students.
Well, and as we kind of dive into the nitty gritty of what this will look like practically for students, families, and teachers as well, I'm wondering too, especially with this 4-day school week option. Let's talk first actually about what that will look like for students, because they can choose which learning option that they want to go that they want to go with. Are they able to kind of switch back and forth and maybe try a couple different options if they'd like, start out 4-day week and say, what, I don't know, maybe we'll do the hybrid option where, we're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. What is the flexibility like for you guys as you guys roll this out?
Sure. We are really asking parents to commit to whatever their choice is for this next school year. That's one thing that we have communicated to them as open enrollment season began, is that we would really like for them to make their choice and then stick with it, commit to it. And here's the reason for that. I really need to know, working ahead here, I need to know kind of what my numbers are going to be for how many students are coming on that 5th day in order to have the right kind of programs in place, in order to have the instructors available. I kind of need to know what I'm working with. So that's kind of the reason that we've asked them to solidify their choice and be committed to it. There is somewhat of a flexibility as far as if I have a student who registered for the 4-day and then let's say a few weeks into the school year, mom gets a new work schedule and she needs to add on that 5th day. Obviously, we can do that. We can go back in and add that 5th day. But what we're asking them to do for the 5th day is we're asking them to commit to that for a year. Because if I'm hiring instructors and if I'm investing in some of that curriculum and those programs, I'm relying on, however much money is coming in for that 5th day. As far as the hybrid goes, there's There is flexibility in the sense that all of our students are going to be using the same curriculum, whether they are hybrid students or they are 4-day, 5-day students. They're all going to be on the same curriculum for each grade level. So the teachers are doing all the lesson planning for the hybrid students as well. So if they get into that hybrid and they, a month or two in, they feel like this is just too much for me. I'm not a homeschool mom after all. I really need my kids to go back to school. They will easily be able to come back into the classroom on that 4-day or 5-day track and be right in line with, where other students are in the curriculum, because we're all doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would need to commit to that for the rest of the year. So they can't be going back and forth, between hybrid or classroom, things like that, which I think, would be really hard for students as well as teachers to plot back and forth. So we are asking them to commit. Now, as far as the Friday, the enrichment day, if they've registered for the 5th day, they have the flexibility to decide how many of those Fridays that they want to come to. So, if they've registered for it, I'm going to be prepared for them no matter whether they're here or not. We have decided not to take attendance on the 5th day, and we're not doing enrichment that would require any type of grading. So it really, truly is enrichment, just electives in a way. So if they're here, fabulous. They're gonna benefit from it. But if they're here, that's a parent's choice as well.
Well, and this is just, there's so many questions I want to ask about all this, because it's so interesting, and I really, am excited to see how this plays out. But let's talk for a moment about teachers and what this means for them, because like you said, no grading, which I'm sure teachers are going to be thankful for. Anything that kind of gives them more time to do their lesson planning, grading other assignments, things like professional development as well. Having those opportunities is going to be really key, I feel like, at least. So what have you heard from teachers? What do you expect maybe some of the feedback will be? And what do you kind of hope will be the end result of having that extra day for teachers, maybe to, they themselves can kind of, catch their breath and like you said, trying to attract new talent as well. As far as educators, it's really interesting. Do you feel like that's going to, also help boost those numbers and make your school that much more attractive?
Yes, absolutely. My teachers are my primary stakeholders. And so during those months that we were really praying through all of this and, brainstorming and talking through all the ideas, that's who I went to first, was my teachers. I wanted to know from them how they felt about this, how this would affect them, whether or not they would be on board, kind of how they saw families receiving this. They were kind of, the ones who, would steer me with some ideas and things like that. So I took it to them first. And the feedback that I got during that first meeting, the first initial meeting, was just overwhelmingly like, yes, this is amazing. What teacher would not want a 4-day school week, right?
Sure.
So for our 4-day school week, we are extending our school day slightly so that we get in our required number of instructional hours for our accreditation. So they will be, actually though, it really doesn't affect the amount of time that they were going to be on campus anyways, because currently they're already on contracts starting at 7:15 a.m. The same will be true next year. We are starting school 15 minutes earlier next year, but that would be 7:45 instead of 8 o'clock. So they would already be here at 7:15 anyways. That's already what they do. And they currently, this year, they're off the clock at 3:15. So next year, school will end at 3:15. So we've extended the school day slightly. But, teachers, as well as I do, they don't leave at 3:15 for the most part. So their contract hours will be a little bit longer. But what a great trade-off, a little bit longer to be able to have a Friday off, We are going to ask that they work probably, this is sort of a fluid plan right now. It's probably going to be like one Friday a month that they will work. Or if they so choose, for example, I have a science teacher that is really interested in the STEM component of our Friday plan. And so it could be that she decides that she wants to teach STEM on Fridays the whole first quarter or possibly the whole first semester. And then let's say the second semester, she doesn't come in on Fridays at all. So hers might look a little bit different. Some of them may choose to, hey, I want to do the hydroponic gardening unit during semester 3. So they might work every Friday of semester 3, but then the rest of the year they're off on Fridays. So there will be, some of them will be working on Fridays. We haven't quite nailed down the schedule there, but at the very least, I could see them doing a rotation of Fridays, like where they're here on once a month Friday. But I mean, still such a great trade-off, even if you know that you're only working one Friday a month, but you have 3 Fridays a month to plan all those doctor appointments or, just have that extra time at home, So I put out my letter of intents a few weeks ago to see how many of them are coming back. And so far, I think I have close to 20 teachers from preschool all the way up. I only have one question mark. So everybody is coming back and they're very, very excited about it. Which is a very different place than I was in last summer when I was hired in June. I did not have any returning teachers from 1st through 7th grade. I did not have a single teacher return from last year.
What a turnaround.
Yeah. So, the other thing that I heard from a principal who had already implemented that 4-day school week, he said what a difference it has made in the amount of substitute teachers that they have had to pay for because, teachers know that they can schedule their appointments on the Fridays that they're off. They're much less likely to take off work.
That's huge, yeah.
She has spent probably $30,000 less this school year on substitute teachers than she had in previous years. So I'm pretty excited about that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you have to think too that with this optional 5th day, not every student is going to come in on that 5th day. So even those teachers that are coming in and doing that rotation, like you just discussed, it's not like they're having to deal with a full classroom size, most likely, at least,
right?
Like what they would the other 4 days of the week. So talk a little bit about some of the academic offerings that you guys are going to have. I mean, you've mentioned a few. Is there any way that students or families or teachers can, make suggestions as to what sort of, activities or enrichment opportunities that they want to see? And, what do you guys have lined up and what's the space that you guys are creating to make new offerings in the future?
Yeah, we are open to ideas. We've kind of just done a lot of research to see, what all electives and special programs are out there right now. I've been on a lot of Zoom calls lately with a lot of companies trying to sell me on all of their STEM labs and things like that. So I'm absolutely open for ideas. If any of our member schools have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. We are right down the road from University of Mobile. It is 5 minutes down the road from us. And so the Alabama School of the Arts is, just a 5-minute drive away. One of our teachers, her husband is a professor in the Alabama School of the Arts. So we are working with them to find maybe some senior level or graduate level students through their music program that would partner with us and come and teach on Fridays with some performing arts, some vocal lessons, music lessons of sorts, even different musical instrument lessons. We are, like I said, we've got STEM and robotics in the works. We've been looking at a lot of different curriculums there, and I even have several teachers who are currently not on our staff put in some resumes with that. So that's exciting, finding those people. I have a senior electrical engineering major at South Alabama, even that came to visit me a couple of weeks ago and is interested in working in the STEM program on Fridays. So I think that's going to be exciting, just finding people in our community that have those specialties. They don't necessarily have to be a certified teacher. They're just somebody who has an incredible amount of knowledge and experience in those areas that can impart that knowledge on our students. So that's really exciting. I sat in on a Zoom a couple weeks ago about hydroponic gardening, and I thought, well, that is amazing. That sounds so fun. And so just, lots of options. So foreign languages. We currently offer Spanish at our middle school level, but would love to implement that at the elementary level as well. So that's something we're looking at for Fridays. But, I kind of foresee it as, I might have some of my full-time teachers, my certified teachers working in some of those programs. But, I love the flexibility of, like I said, having people from the community that are specialists in those areas, that if I can pay them to come in for 2 hours once a week, that's not a full-time salary. So that gives me flexibility there with my numbers, and just, allows us to bring in just the right people to work with our students. So a lot of exciting opportunities, but I'm definitely open to ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and bringing in voices from the community is a great way to engage with and connect with your community. It's a great way for people who maybe have never heard of, your school specifically, especially like what you said in such a competitive market that you're in right now. Any way that you can stand out, get your name out there, I think is obviously going to be very, very beneficial. We talked a moment ago about what the benefits of this may look like for teachers with this 4-day week specifically. What about with the students? Because, when I was in elementary and middle school, I was not the type of kid who particularly enjoyed, sitting at a desk for 7-8 hours, for 5 days a week. And then when you add on top of that extracurriculars and different things, I look back now as an adult, I'm like, how on earth did I do all of that 5 days a week without a nap? Like, good Lord, there's just no way I could, I don't know how I did it. But, now that you have this 4-day option and then the hybrid option, which I promise I want to get into, what sort of impact do you feel like this is going to have on, your students developmentally speaking, socially, social development as well factors into this? And then obviously, most importantly, their academic, development as well. What sort of benefits, what sort of impact do you feel like this will have on them?
Most of our students are primarily younger. We don't have a ton of middle schoolers. We currently don't have a high school, although I'll get into that in just a minute when we talk about hybrid. So for the most part, I would say probably 80% of our families who have pre-enrolled or re-enrolled have selected the 5-day option, which has been a little bit shocking to me. I really thought we would have more that would select the 4-day, but I think it's just the age of the students. Families work, so they need their kids to be in school. But for those who are signing up for that 4-day option, I'm kind of like you. Like, I would have loved this when I was a kid. I think that we often forget that school looked very different 100 years ago and longer. Kids were not in school necessarily for 8 hours a day and then running around doing all their sports and activities for 5 hours every night. I feel like we are way too busy of a generation. And there's a lot of valuable family time that is lacking with the schedules that we have created. And I feel like we truly have become just probably the most unhealthy and the most emotionally unstable generation because of all of the busyness and the lack of quality family time that is happening right now. So I really see this as an opportunity for us to just take it back, like we are taking back our lives here and giving families more of that time. My girls are grown. They're in college now. And so I did the busy parent thing. I made that mistake of driving my kids all around to all of their practices and pushing, thinking they were going to be college athletes and superstars and all of that. And, if there's any regret that I have as a mom, that I wish that I could go back and take back some of that time. They only have one childhood. They only have one adolescence. And so what are we doing to these kids? Pushing them so much and keeping them so busy. So I think that it's an intangible, just bringing them back home and just having that quality family time is such a gift to families.
Yeah. And I mean, for all of the good work that you can do inside the four walls of your classroom, I mean, really the foundation of it, as we can all agree, really starts at home. And that support system obviously is going to be so important. So important is understating it, really. And that's why when you look at these options of being able to have more time at home, I think this is going to be really interesting to see. So we talked about this 4-week option. Talk a little bit about this hybrid option, because now instead of being in school for 4, maybe 5 days a week, now you're only in school for 2 days a week. And I know you said that those students are going to be held up to the same, they're going to be at the same pace as those in-classroom students. But still, talk a little bit about what this hybrid option will look like, because I'm sure some parents are going to think, well, am I now like part-time homeschooling my kid? Do I need to buy my kid a laptop or a tablet? What's the next step? What is this going to look like? So that's my question for you: is what will that hybrid option look like for you guys?
Okay. Yeah, and don't think of like the COVID era where we were, where our teacher was in the classroom and talking to us and things like that. Kind of want to, get that out of the head, because that's not really what the hybrid is. Hybrid is being on campus learning, in a classroom setting 2 days a week. And then really it truly is homeschooling the other 3 days. So I kind of have been selling it as this is homeschooling with support. This is homeschooling with the support of certified teachers. Like I said, I was a homeschool mom for 5 years. Now, I was an educator. I had an education degree. I had been a teacher. And it still was very overwhelming for me as a professional educator to homeschool my kids, knowing what parts of the curriculum that you can kind of skip over because they're going to learn that for the next 5 years, or how to scale that curriculum down so that you can get it finished in 180 school days. Those are the kind of things that I think like most parents probably would not know when it comes to homeschooling. So the lesson planning can be very overwhelming. The grading, obviously, very overwhelming. And the accountability, very difficult when you're homeschooling because sometimes life happens. You've got that doctor's appointment, and then, a family member is sick and in the hospital. So you spend a week up there, and then you travel to grandma's, and there's just a lot of life going on. And so what happens with homeschooling is that school gets pushed to the back burner. So I hear that a lot from homeschoolers as well. And I know that from my own experience that to have the accountability is absolutely necessary in order to be successful with homeschooling. You have to have that accountability and just the support of a school community. And so that's what we want to offer. So our teachers are going to do all of the lesson planning for our hybrid students. So they will receive their lessons for the week laid out Monday through Friday. They know exactly what assignments have to be completed that week for each subject. When they come to campus on those 2 days that they are on campus learning, that is when they're going to turn in those assignments. So they have someone else they're turning work into besides mom, someone who is actually going to grade it and keep up with the grades and manage the grades, manage a transcript, if you will. As well as the teacher here on campus will be administering any kind of tests or quizzes that are coming up in the curriculum that week. So those, instead of being done at home with mom who's sitting there with an answer key, they're coming to class and taking those tests and things. So there is that accountability there. Let's see, what else? What else did you ask me that?
So about technology, that was my big thing was what does that look like?
Yeah. So, we have plenty of technology. That is not a shortage. That Eanes money really helped us out there. So we have a ton of technology. Our hybrid students are not going to have to purchase their own laptops. We have plenty of laptops, some of them still in boxes and haven't even been so we have plenty of those to issue to our hybrid students. What I'm planning to do with curriculum is to offer those hybrid students kind of a choice based on parent preference. So I'm looking at BJU as being my primary curriculum for all of us. I love everything that they put out there, honestly, is very high quality covers the standards and beyond, and has that biblical worldview. But what I love about BJU, and I'm not getting any money from them, and there's no kickback here. This is not a sales pitch. But what I love about BJU is that they do have that option of purchasing the digital format of the curriculum where they can watch a teacher teach those lessons. Or if they want to truly homeschool and they just want the textbook and mom wants to teach them, she can do that. So they will have that option, especially like the higher level. I'm thinking of like my 9th graders who have registered who are taking algebra. Most homeschooling moms are not comfortable teaching algebra, but they would have that option to purchase the BJU, the digital component that has the teacher instructing all the lessons that they can purchase for their students, so they can watch those video lessons that are web-based at home. So that'll kind of be up to the parent to decide. They may want to purchase all of their core subjects as digital, where they can watch all of the lessons, put on their headphones while they're working from home. Their kid is over there working through their lessons. They may truly want to be at the table, hands-on, all in, teaching their kids. So that'll be their choice. But when they're here on campus, our teachers will be offering some electives for them, that PE time, that music, things that they can't really do at home. They're getting socialization. Our chapel service will be part of hybrid days as well. So just a type of inclusion, if you will. And then they're also taking their tests and things like that. Teacher may be going over some difficult concepts that maybe they've struggled with that week. Just getting some extra support. And then on the days that they are at home, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when they're working from home with mom or independently, their hybrid teacher will have office hours set aside. It may be from 9 to noon, or it may be afternoon, whatever that teacher decides. But they would have those office hours where they will be accessible by phone or by Zoom call to help support that family with whatever questions that they have.
Yeah, no, that's huge, because I know, especially, even if a family is, going the route of more homeschooling, and like you said, even for someone who is a seasoned educator such as yourself, it can still be difficult. So having that one-on-one time, I think, will be really, really key. And I guess I know you said earlier that the teachers have really seemed like they're very much on board with this. What have you heard from some of the parents as this has kind of all been announced within the last few weeks? And then maybe anything from the students. Do you have any students coming up to you in the hall saying, "Oh man, I can't wait for 5th day enrichment," or "Oh, I'm so excited to be able to learn from home and spend more time with mom and dad"? What are you hearing from the people?
Yeah, we rolled this out as a parent, and I wanted to do it that way because, as you know, people are usually not open to change unless they know the reason and they know the why. And so that was very important to me. When you're rolling out something like this, that is like completely different than a traditional, the way things have always been done around here, you want to make sure that you have total buy-in from your school community. And so what we did is I took it to the school board, obviously, for their input and their vote as well. And our school board is so incredibly supportive of us. And they are members here at Redemption Church. And they said, what can we do? Like, how can we help? Like, we think this is amazing. We think this is exactly what our school needs. How can we support you? And so, I kind of explained to them that I wanted to have a big parent meeting and just unveil the plan to everybody all at one time. I don't want them to read this on a Facebook post. I don't want them to read it in an email. People don't read emails anyways. This is not something you put in a letter and send home with Bobby Sue. This is something that has to come from me, and they have to know the reasons of why we had to do something different. And so our school board went to the church, went to the life groups in the church, and got together some women in a life group who brought 10 crock pots of chili And
The
we
power
had
of the crock pot
old-fashioned, like,
cannot
chili
be
supper,
overstated.
cornbread, the whole bit. And it was perfect because it was a very cold January night. It was right after the snowstorm, Snowmageddon. And so it was absolutely perfect. We had it here in the cafe on the campus of Redemption Church. And it was an amazing night, like having our families come together and just that time of community building was awesome. The whole vibe in the room was just spectacular that night. We kind of built it up with like, come hear about all the new options that will be available in 25, 26. We offered, out of uniform passes, whatever we could do to get them here. We told them we were feeding them dinner. So we had a great turnout that night. And I was able to just like share from my heart, really. That was my prayer, was that that they catch the vision, but that they really hear from my heart, like this is the reason that we have to do this. We cannot continue on being the lowest cost tuition in Mobile, Baldwin County and just keep up with the status quo because, we're going to die. I mean, this we can't. And they had to hear the math and they had to see the reasons. And let me tell you that after I shared that night, the feedback ever since has just been overwhelmingly positive. I have not heard one single pushback or negative comment or seen anything on Voices of Saraland Facebook page or anything like that. Nothing negative about our plan whatsoever. From our school community. Obviously, there are people every time Fox 10 or one of those posts something about it. Of course, you look at all the comments. I don't look at the comments, but other people tell me the comments. And, people are like, that's crazy. What are you going to do?
There's always someone.
There's always going to be somebody.
Yeah.
From our school community, they have total buy-in. They are completely on board. They are very excited. Our re-enrollment numbers are amazing. We already, it's only the beginning of March, like our enrollment numbers currently are already at what our total enrollment is current.
It's fantastic.
So, we've still got several months to go here. We've got several grade levels that are filling up. Our K4 is full. We have 4 K4 classes for next year, and they are all full. It's a waiting list. K5 is full, and we've got several grade levels that are full. So, it's been very positive feedback. Our students really haven't. There has been very little buzz from them. I don't know if they just don't know what's going on or what. I don't know. But again, probably because we don't have a lot of like middle schoolers and we don't have high school. I'm sure if we had high schoolers, they would be very excited.
They'd be all over it. Yeah.
Yeah, they would. So our kiddos are mostly younger, so they don't really talk kind of thing. But I have had a lot of parents ask about the Friday enrichment. They wanted to line up and had to explain like that is a work in progress. I hope to be able to publish that schedule later this summer when it's all solidified. But but very excited. Everybody's very positive.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting. And I think it's a great thing that we can all be reminded of is as an administrator, as a leader, sometimes it can be really easy to say, hey, I found this fantastic thing that is going to turn things around. It's going to be a huge benefit for everybody. It's a great thing, positive impact. And it very well might be, but then just rolling it out without that, very intentional communication that you just described with the people who it'll really impact on a day-to-day basis. It's almost like shooting yourself in the foot a little bit if you're not communicating those things because, how important is it for people to really understand what went into the decision more than just the decision itself? And I guess for anybody who may be listening to this, whether it's an administrator, teacher, a family who's trying to find the best option for their student, what would be your advice to anybody who is considering this? What do you feel like has worked so far? Obviously, because you're still in the early stages of this, of course, but what has really worked aside from just that communication that I just mentioned? And then is there anything maybe that people need to kind of watch out for that could potentially be, a bump in the road to making this really, really work? What do they need to be keeping in mind to implement this?
For administrators who are considering making these type of changes, I would say, just do your research and really know your people, know your school community, know your demographics in your area. But, do your research and reach out to people who are already doing something similar to what you're doing. That's where I came up with the ideas for the Friday enrichment, was from other principals across the country who had already begun implementing this. I spoke to one administrator in, I believe it was in Texas, who also, like us, had a lot of elementary students and, explained that at the high school level, of course, they're shut down on Fridays completely. He said, but elementary students have to have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And so, just talk to people. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who are doing it, and just gather your data, gather all the information, and, just prayerfully talk to people that you trust who are going to influence you in the right way and encourage you in the right way, like our school board did. They've been our big cheerleaders and our biggest supporters, and they pray for us. And every time there's a press release or anything about our school, they're the first ones to put it out there for us. So love that. And if you're a family member who's considering kind of making this change, I would say, gosh, as a mama, I'm speaking as a mama right now, not as an administrator, do it. Like, you do not get a second chance to enjoy your children's childhood with them. This is once in a lifetime. Just do it. Take that time back and be with your kids.
Yeah, time. It's invaluable for all of us. And that's fantastic to hear. And honestly, as I listen to everything that you're outlining here, what a great way to build a sense of community and loyalty among your teachers, among your families, because they know that you're looking out for them and that you're doing it for them and in their best interest. And I think that's really a really powerful thing. Looking ahead now, what other things, you said yourself that you've been doing a lot of research about trends and what's going on, what's working, what's not working. And it may be too early to ask this, but what are some of the next thing, what's the next big thing maybe in this kind of context that you feel like is going to impact education and the way that we do things? What's the next big kind of shakeup of the status quo for how we do things, and how can people kind of stay ahead of the curve?
If I knew that, I might be a millionaire. I think AI is going to take us by storm. It already is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's what I do know. I know that every year we have to reevaluate. We have to reassess constantly and not be afraid to adapt. I think if you are staying stagnant, even in education, eventually you're just going to die. So you have to be willing to look at the next thing, and not be afraid to take that leap of faith and see where it takes you. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like we've really got to prepare our students for what the next level of education is going to look like for them in this generation of AI. I feel, I have 2 college students myself. And so I'm gating that as a parent, even. That's not something that they were taught in high school, writing papers and things like that with AI. But knowing that your college professor is going to run it through some kind of AI detector and, things like that. But how can we use that technology to make us better and smarter and more effective communicators? How can we...
Sounds like a great enrichment day.
Yeah,
Just
it
saying.
does. It really does. Yeah. How can we use it, to benefit us, not as a hindrance? I feel like that's probably where we're going next. I really do.
Yeah. No, and it'll be really interesting to see, but keeping your finger on the pulse for sure is a great way to stay ahead of things. Wow, there's so much here. But lastly, Heather, because like I said before we started recording, I don't want to take up your whole morning here, but for families that are considering North Mobile Christian as an education option, like you said, there's lots of parents, there's waiting lists, everywhere you look. What would you say to them as, they're considering you guys and they say, I want to send my child or my kids to North Mobile Christian, and they see that they have these different options. What are the questions, or what is the thought process that you would like them to have so that way they make the best choice for which of these, options is best for them? What are some of the questions that they need to ask themselves? I know time and, scheduling, of course, is going to be a big thing, but, what other things do they need to kind of factor before they just, so that way it's not just an eeny, meeny, miny, mo kind of decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it when families come and take the tour and meet with me. Even I've met with several families that have enrolled for next year. They're going to be new to our campus, and I love sitting down with those families and kind of hearing from their heart, what their concerns are or what their questions are. But I think that as parents, you have to know how much are you willing to invest first and foremost. As far as not just monetary, but also the time factor, because if you say, I want to be a homeschool family, or we're going to bring our kids home for education, really evaluating your family structure and your lifestyle and kind of assessing, is that really going to be a good fit for us? So that's something that I would highly recommend for families that are considering that. But, just being in prayer. I mean, just seeking the Lord's wisdom on those decisions is really what I encourage families to do first and foremost. Just seek their wisdom from the Lord and let Him direct their path.
Mm-hmm. Now, one more thing, just because I just remembered from earlier, you mentioned that you wanted to bring up high school and kind of what the future looks like for that. So, promise, last question. But
okay.
But what are some of what's the outlook for that?
Yeah. So we currently we stop at 7th grade. We don't have an 8th grade this year. Didn't have enough 8th graders enroll for this year, so we ended up capping it at 7th. So this next year with the hybrid, when we first started touring families and we did our open house for the community, a lot of the families that came and inquired about the hybrid had incoming high schoolers. And so they were really interested in the hybrid for their older students more so than younger students. So, I said, hey, enroll, fill out that registration card. And, if for some reason we don't have enough, I will refund you your registration fee, I promise. But I need to know. I mean, it just helps me to know how to plan. So far, it looks like we are adding a 9th grade. I'm very hopeful. I've had several 9th graders register for the hybrid. So if they remain committed, and if I could maybe get 2 more 9th graders in on that hybrid class, I would have enough to offer 9th grade for hybrid. And then my hope is that we could just add a grade each year, that they just kind of roll up with us every year. So that's kind of what we're doing with 8th grade this next year. All of my 7th graders that are currently here are re-enrolled for next year. So that means we'll have 8th grade for sure. But, with that hybrid component, I think that opens us up to be able to offer, some high school options as well.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Absolutely. Congratulations. I mean, like you said at the beginning, it was something where things were, looking a little shaky there for a minute, but it looks like things are really turning around for you guys, and congratulations. And I do think, it's due in large part to the work that you've done. Like you mentioned, the board has as well seems to have been a big factor in making this become a reality as well. And then, of course, your teachers and your community as well. So, Heather, this is fantastic. I feel like I learned a lot from this. So thank you so much. I know our listeners will probably be able to take something away from this as well. So if any schools are out there considering this, keep an eye on North Mobile Christian School.
That's right. And I welcome their input, their feedback, ideas. This is my first year as a school administrator. So I know that you have a lot of listeners and a lot of member schools who have much more experience than I do. And I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. So I absolutely welcome the wisdom and feedback of member schools who have, done some of these things that could impart their wisdom on me and share with me.
Well, best of luck as this all kind of, unfolds in the next several months. And we'll all be watching closely and we'll be rooting for you is the most important thing.
Yes.
So again, Heather, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm excited to put this out and see what people have to say. And thank you again so much.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you today. Thank you so much.
Campus Conversations is brought to you by the Alabama Independent School Association.
If you want to learn more about the AISA, check out our website at aisaonline.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and join us Tuesdays for the next episode of Campus Conversations.